The Australian Wildlife Hospital was already humming with activity when the Belmies and Bindi arrived. The staff was busy on the phones, and nurses moved rapidly down the corridors. Richard disappeared almost immediately. He had plenty to do. Rosie and Bindi had spent hours helping out at the hospital and knew what they needed to be done in the emergency like this. The friends made their way towards the laundry. The staff who need plenty of extra bandages and clean towels folded and stacked ready. The girls worked quickly. After they had created a good stockpile of materials, they were eager to find more ways to help out. Bindi was always amazed by the size of the hospital. There was a nursery for the baby animals, consultation rooms, treatment rooms, operating rooms, an intensive care unit, a pathology department, a pharmacy where other medication was held, a staff room and a kitchen. Richard was the main vet, but there were 6 others who worked full-time in the hospital. Loads of nurses, administration staff, and a huge number of volunteers, which the hospital depended on in order to survive. The hospital was open 24 hours a day, and its policy was to never turn away an animal in need. It was a massive operation. The girls found Richard and a couple of other staff members busily creating extra space in the conference room for animal patients. Bindi shook her head in disbelief. Do you really think we'll get this many injured animals? Richard shrugged. Hopefully not, but it's better to be prepared. We won't have time to do this later on. Richard's mobile rang. Dr. Bellamy speaking. As Richard listened to the caller, he pulled out 2 bottles of water from a fridge and passed one to each girl. Got that. We've been waiting for your call. Thanks. Richard ended the phone call and slipped his mobile phone into his back pocket. Grabbing a few more bottles of water, he said, Drink up those. You need to keep your fluids up. That was our official call to action. The hospital was sending rescue teams to treat the animals that had been pulled from the fire. The animals would be given on-the-spot treatment before being brought back to the hospital. Bindi couldn't believe it. She would be going out on site to help animals right at the time they needed it the most. Richard rushed down the hospital corridor, heading for the rescue vehicle. Bindi and Rosie didn't need any more encouragement. Animal rescue, here we come. With Richard at the wheel, Rosie and Bindi joined Tracy, a vet nurse, and Tanya and Joe, 2 volunteer carers, in the back of the van. Pretty soon they were out on the open road. The trees flashed past as they drove deeper into the national park. As the van approached the fire, the smell of smoke grew stronger. Bindi coughed and her eyes started to sting. She squinted out the window at the charred bush to the side of the road. It looked so awful, she whispered. The others nodded their agreement. When they finally pulled up in a clearing, it felt as if they were very close to the fire. It was incredibly hot and ash swirled in the fierce wind. Bindi was glad they had brought so much extra drinking water. She felt thirsty again. A few tents had been hastily erected as a rest area of firefighters. People were shouting orders. Massive pieces of firefighting equipment were being dragged this way and that, and there was so much smoke in the air that it was difficult to see. Their small group gathered around Richard. We cannot go any closer to the fire. We leave that job to the professionals. This is an area where the firefighters can bring out any injured animals. Once we have looked them over and made them as comfortable as possible, we will shuttle the animals back to the hospital. Richard pointed to a small tent in the side We can set up our tent over there. The tent gives the animals some shade, which is vital. One of our first jobs will be to lower their body temperatures. It didn't take long to unpack their emergency kit and set up. Almost immediately, two animals were brought over for treatment. One was a little blue-tongued lizard with minor skin burns. Tracy took care of him by bathing him in cool water. The other injured animal was a koala. He had large fluffy ears and a cute oversized nose. Even though he was hurt and distressed, Bindi thought he was the cutest, fattest koala she had ever seen. She was trying to pay special attention to this little guy. The firefighter who brought over the koala looked exhausted, and his face was smeared with black soot. Bindi quickly grabbed one of their water bottles and passed it to him. He nodded, he nodded his thanks. Got our work cut out for us with this one, that's for sure, he grunted. Terrible winds. Bindi asked, what is it like out there? The large man sighed. It's not good, hot and dangerous, but you know. He added almost as an afterthought. Sometimes you can hold back the flames and then you really feel like you have made a difference. With that comment, he was off again, running back towards the fire. Bindi thought about his words. She understood what he was talking about. Making a difference was what her family was all about. Mindy and Rosie helped Richard hold the koala on the table while Richard injected him with some medicine to calm him down. He then put Bindi in charge of applying cool pads to the koala's wounds. He explained that the koala had second-degree burns, which means there was blistering on the skin. It was a serious injury. Richard looked worried. As the poor creature became more sedated, Bindi was able to stroke his fur and talk to him gently. Don't worry, little fella. We will take good care of you. Everything will be okay.